When I bought the old mill house in Elderwood Creek, the realtor, a pleasant woman named Martha with a perpetual smile, made a point of showing me the community's shared offering plate. It sat on a weather-beaten stone pedestal at the crossroads leading into the valley, a heavy, tarnished silver platter about 2 feet in diameter with intricate, almost organic-looking carvings around its rim. Every new season, folks leave a little something, she explained, her voice as smooth as river stones. A token of gratitude for the valley's bounty. Keeps things harmonious. I'd smiled, nodded, and thought it a quaint, if slightly peculiar, local custom, a charming touch of rustic tradition in a place I hoped would be my quiet escape. I had no idea then just how literal harmonious truly was, or what the valley considered its bounty. My first few months were idyllic. The air was crisp, the creek flowed with a soothing murmur, and the neighbors, though few and far between, were friendly in a reserved, country way. Old Man Hemlock, who ran the general store, would always ask about my garden, and the Miller sisters, who lived across the valley, would leave fresh-baked bread on my porch. No one ever talked about the offering plate after Martha's brief mention, but I noticed its contents changing. In spring, it held wildflowers. In summer, fresh berries and small, smooth river stones. I even saw a child's worn wooden toy once. It seemed harmless, a sweet, collective gesture, and I'd almost forgotten about its peculiar significance, content in my new, peaceful life. Autumn arrived with a breathtaking blaze of color. The maples turned scarlet, the oaks a deep russet, and the air carried the scent of wood smoke and decaying leaves. It was during this time that I noticed a subtle shift in the valley's atmosphere, a quiet tension, like the taut string of a forgotten instrument. The offerings on the plate grew stranger. Instead of just dried herbs or late-season fruits, I saw small, carved wooden figures that resembled distorted human forms, bound with thin, dark twine. One morning, I found a single, perfect raven's feather resting on a bed of dry moss, next to a small, intricate coil of what looked like human hair. My peaceful illusion began to crack. I decided to ask Old Man Hemlock about it. He was sweeping the porch of his general store, his face deeply lined like an ancient map. The plate, I began, trying to sound casual. The offerings, they seemed to have changed. He paused, leaning on his broom, his gaze drifting over the valley's vibrant canopy. He said, his voice a low rasp. Winter's coming. The valley it gets hungry in the cold months. Needs a bit more, keeps it quiet. He wouldn't elaborate, just shrugged and went back to his sweeping, leaving me with a profound sense of unease. Hungry, kept quiet? The words burrowed into my mind, whispering of something ancient and demanding. The air grew colder. Snow fell, first a dusting, then a thick, heavy blanket. The creek's murmur became a colder, harder sound, almost a groan. The offerings now unsettled me deeply. I saw a small, blood-stained bone, clearly an animal, but unnervingly clean, next to a withered, claw-like root. Then, one frigid morning, I found a single, tarnished silver locket on the plate, a miniature portrait of a young girl faintly visible within. It wasn't just strange anymore, it was profoundly disturbing. Who would leave something so personal, so clearly cherished? And for what hunger? I started seeing less of my neighbors. The Miller sisters' porch was dark, their windows shuttered. Old Man Hemlock's store opened erratically, his face grayer, his eyes holding a strange, weary sorrow. I felt a growing sense of isolation, a creeping dread that wasn't just the winter chill. One evening, a fierce blizzard raged. I was huddled by the fire when I heard a faint, persistent scratching at my back door. I hesitated, then slowly opened it, expecting a stray animal. Instead, standing on my porch, barely visible in the swirling snow, was Martha, the realtor. Her smile was gone, replaced by a hollow, terrified grimace. Her eyes, wide and unfocused, stared past me into the house. "It's time," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "The valley it needs a new offering." Her gaze fixed on my arm, specifically on a small, old silver bracelet I always wore, a family heirloom. Before I could process her words, her hand shot out, bony and cold, grasping my wrist with surprising strength. She tried to pull me, to drag me out into the blizzard. I struggled, yelling, fear turning my blood to ice. She wasn't Martha anymore. She was something else, something desperate and driven, powered by a cold, ancient will. I managed to wrench free, slamming the door shut and bolting it. I spent the night barricaded, listening to the relentless wind and, I imagined, faint scratching. By morning, the blizzard had passed. A chilling silence had fallen over Elderwood Creek, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful but pregnant with absence. I crept to my window, peering out at the fresh, untrodden snow. There, at the crossroads, stark against the white, sat the offering plate, and on it, carefully placed, was a single, silver bracelet. Mine. I never saw Martha again, or the Miller sisters, or even Old Man Hemlock. The valley was quiet, harmonious, and I knew with a certainty that chilled me to my bones that spring would bring new blossoms, summer new berries, and come autumn, the valley would grow hungry again, and I would be the only one left to give. My escape had become a cage, and the quiet harmony of Elderwood Creek was merely the silence of a well-fed predator. Thank you for listening. If this story found you in the dark, subscribe and turn on notifications. A new tale waits every night.